So that's just setting things up a little bit within Visual Studio. We'll get a little bit more in detail here. You have your Solution Explorer here. This is, if you double click here, you can see that this is just going to close that list there. But typically you're going to have the assembly information. You can double click there. And this will be talked about in great detail, but this is just going to give you details about the assembly that you're creating, whether you're dealing with your product, your copyright, things like that, the major version, etc. We don't have to go into detail here on that. But the main information that you're going to be working here is like your form 1.cs file, which is typically created when you create your Windows application. You'll see another example when you work with other examples like console applications, for example. We'll pin that there so we don't get on anybody's nerves or mess with our compression. So when we look at our form, we can right click there and we can look at the designer view, which we're looking at, or we can look at the code view. Code view just gives you all the different namespaces that we're dealing with. The namespace that I mentioned here, which is starting at the top, and then the different classes that we're working with. You can see that these buttons are added as variables. So if you're not familiar with working with variables or working with buttons and things like that, this is all going to make tremendous sense. In fact, you're going to be explaining it to somebody else after this training. So that's how confident I am in what we're going to be going over. So this is just something we're going to talk about later, but you can see the boilerplate code, the boilerplate code, whatever you want to call it, the opening code, template code. This is going to look like a lot that you have here. Really not. We'll go over that. This is just added. You can find your main entry point here, which is always added. This looks like a lot, but it's really basic for a form application here. We can save everything, save all. You're going to build your application very quickly. We could build this solution. You can also rebuild if you've already built it to make it quicker if it's a big solution. In the output, you'll see that just successful. We didn't do anything, but it works. And we could run it if we wanted to. You're going to work with your project menu here to add more forms, to add user controls to the forms, to add components and classes and things like that. And you're going to use this menu a lot. That's one menu. The view menu as well, the object browser as we've seen, the toolbox, properties window, resource view, all different things you're going to use that we're going to see as well. So view menu, very important. Project menu, very important. And then the build menu as well. Debugging is always important. So this is another menu that you want to get used to. You can debug through your applications. And then, of course, your window menu. And don't forget the help that you can have there. So that's something else you can work with. Check out the help because you're definitely going to need it. Everybody needs help within a programming environment to see how things work very easily. So you can see quickly that we can set things up nicely. We can just go right back to the code view or design view. We'll look at the design view, and you can double click on a button, for example. That's going to add some code here for you automatically, create that button handler, and then you would just put your code in right here and test to make sure that the syntax is correct. When you actually type some things in, for example, we'll just type console even though that's not going to be used here. Then you're going to use the hinting here that you can actually work with the hinting to have it place the read line, for example, and then you'll get even more help available to you, as we're going to see. And if you have additional methods that you can work with, you can just scroll through them. As you can see, you can also hit the up and down arrow key to do the same.